Hello, John, Jack, Aaron, Sarah.
Now I can say hello.
Good evening, Jack.
Hi, Jack.
Hi, all.
Hello.
Hello.
Right back. Has food there? No, see you later.
Aaron, as I saw some email traffic today, Lee and Aaron Tobin will not be available to join us.
And Jen Garrity reached out to me at the beginning of the week. She is in Boston for work, so she will not be here. So I think we're all set.
Okay. Well, since it is a workshop and not no decisions are being rendered, we don't need a quorum this
Correct.
evening. So,
Yep.
All right, I will call the meeting to order then without any further ado. This is the June 16th meeting of the Historic Resources Commission of the City of Albany. We are joined this evening, myself, John Myers, Commissioner Hacker, Commissioner McEnany, Commissioner Kaplan, and Aaron Tobin, or Aaron Glennon from the Planning Office. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
And I believe we have Martha Mahoney from the Law Department, also representing the interests of the commission and keeping us out of trouble. If there are any comments from the general public, we would invite those at a given time, request that they be kept to the topic at hand and not be more than 3 minutes in duration. Without any further discussion, we'll proceed with the public workshop, and this is to discuss cases for the upcoming July public hearing. So we have 191 North Pearl Street returning to us in the Clinton Avenue, North Pearl, Clinton Square Historic District. And this is a return visit to talk about the advancement of the design for the construction of a 4-story residential building on a vacant corner lot, a very prominent vacant corner lot. So we can proceed with the.
Sure. So this came before the HRC at the last meeting on June 2nd for concept review. As we discussed at the last meeting, the project has been purchased by a new owner who is looking to go forward with the design from 2016 with material changes to the exterior of the building. So at the last meeting, the commission had requested elevation drawings with the neighboring structures that are adjacent to the property, as well as the properties across the street. The architect has updated those drawings to include the buildings on the north side of the property along North Pearl Street. They've also included this is the view from Wilson Street, which does include the properties across the street to the west along North Pearl. And they did provide updated renderings, which do reflect the comments from the commission for simplifying the entry cornice. So they've removed the previously proposed balustrade and simplified it to a simple capstone cornice. They have also modified the masonry work on the corners, where they have now proposed a water table with a textured CMU architectural stone style base and a smooth finish architectural block on the top portion of the corners. This will wrap all the way around down the Wilson Street elevation as well. They have also modified the balcony roofs on the top floor to include a bracketed style cornice with a small projecting balcony cover. As well, they've also increased the width of the entryway windows, reflecting Lee Pinckney's comment to increase the glazing for the entryway.
Okay, I think, well, that covers a number of the items that we discussed at the last meeting. And I think, from my perspective, the water table offers a nice relief element to the, I don't know if I have a echo or not.
Sorry, John. Can everybody make sure that if there's any TVs or radios on in the background, can you please silence them? We're getting a lot of feedback from somewhere. I'm not sure where.
In any case, I think the elimination of the balustrade at the entry element and the simple cornice works well, and the water table and alternate textured stone below it seems to help considerably with the mass of the appearance of a large mass of masonry. The only comment I have is on the cornice treatment at the recessed balconies. I think the running, again, this is my opinion, running the bracketed cornice back into that recess may be overly detailed or overly fussy. I think there was a nice break in the rhythm with the cornice when the bracketed cornice broke and went to a much simpler profile at the balconies. I like the fact that the balcony now has a hood over it, but I think it could, that bracketed cornice at that hood could be simplified.
Mhm.
But I would invite comments from the other commissioners on that item.
I will, Lee Pinkney had emailed comments earlier, and I spoke with him again this afternoon. And he also brought that up, that the cornice along the balconies, he felt that something similar to what they had proposed previously would be more, he would prefer to see something along those lines rather than the more ornate bracket for the balconies. So
Can we see the other elevations if you've got revised? Yeah, there. So that comment would probably speak to all of the recessed balconies that Commissioner Pinckney and Commissioner Myers noted.
Mhm.
I'd like to go back to the first rendering that you showed, please. And with the change of windows, a couple of comments on the windows. I think I agree that more light in that large entry area is beneficial. But the windows just being big punched openings without any kind of articulation of a mutton or mullion seems in contrast to the other openings, the treatment of the other windows and doors.
Mhm.
And my other comment is, in some ways, I know I spoke to this at our last meeting, but all the way to the right, the windows in that unit, they still seem really short to me, and they are shorter than if I'm reading this correctly, than the second and the third floor windows. And I'm sorry, Erin, if you would now go to the view where we saw both facades.
Yep.
So it's kind of opposite. We're used to seeing larger windows that then get smaller as we go up, and it's the reverse here. So I wish that those windows at that very prominent corner were taller, at a lower sill. Now we can go back and then we can see that punched opening on the pearl. Yeah. In fact, in some ways, maybe they also appear incongruous because whether it's how it's rendered or the actual framing is aluminum framing, there's a lot of metal showing at the other windows, whether they are depicting a transom or that vertical mutton, and they're just very thin and again very just punch looking, unlike the other openings, those three right near the entrance. But I do like the idea of simplifying those recesses above the balconies. I think it's a very good recommendation.
So what is the height of the, when I see the comment that was made, what is the height of the level 1 windows as opposed to the second and third levels?
I'm not sure. I believe that Sarah is on from C2 Architects.
Erin, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I can address that question. So because the site slopes so much going from down Wilson, the first floor level of the apartments is 3 feet above grade. So that's why the windows on the corners kind of look a little bit shorter than the rest, but it's in reality, they're the same size windows carried all the way down. It's just that the floor level is raised up because the site slopes so much.
Is there any reason they can't be taller?
So the windows, I would say in the block on the corner, the sill height from the finished floor of the apartment, you're 3 feet. So you would only go down 3 feet roughly. So they can be a little bit taller. It's just you're not going all the way down to grade.
You could also put a blank panel below them if you wanted to give the illusion of height.
Correct. We could also do that too. We can look into something like that.
Although the detailing would get a little fussy because of where the sill would be and how you integrate that. I'm sorry, Erin, have we seen the photographs of the adjacent buildings? It looks like they're just showing us big blocks. And then we got a little more information on height. Yeah. So the building to the right in the photograph, yeah, that's
This is this.
that's that block.
Mhm.
And
Correct.
and then there's another drawing that shows us the relative height of those buildings, right?
Yes.
So that red line does not extend all the way to the left to that building. That building that we were just looking at is that closer building to the proposed project.
Correct.
And the height difference, let's see, is about 34. I can't make it out from the side. 34, 12, 36, about maybe 3 or 4 feet lower.
So also I will say that the way
5163.
The new construction criteria is written is that new structures should not be shorter than the shortest building on the block or taller than the tallest building on the block. And I believe that this kind of third block, I believe maybe one of the taller buildings on this block.
Well, the red line certainly indicates compliance with that criteria.
Correct.
So I think we're a good deal taller than the building down the hill on Wilson, but that, the hill is working against us there, I guess.
How does everybody feel about on the front, on the North Pearl Street side, the three large windows which are wider and seem to be centered on the negative space between the windows up above. Now, if you go back to what was just there, now they're under the windows. In the previous one, they're under the vacant space. Which one is it? See this one? Notice how they're centered under the vacant space between the
Yep.
windows? And in the next one, they're directly under the windows. Which is it?
So those windows are supposed to be underneath the ones above, or in line, I should say.
So the one we're looking at is the one that's accurate. Right
Correct.
there. Okay,
Yep, the rendering is correct.
yep. And those windows don't seem to go with the rest of the building.
I
They don't
agree.
have lintels over them. Well, they apparently have a soldier's course up above them, but it's an entire course, not just not directly over the windows. They have no individual space over them that's unique to them. I just wonder how people feel about that.
I already spoke. I don't think they work very well.
What would you think would make it look better?
Well, again, I asked the question about the thickness of the framing because the rendering and, I don't understand why it's so thick, what we see at the other, say the openings to the right.
Hmm.
And it's much thinner there. Possibly the same panning system, possibly a horizontal element similar to the others, breaking up the expanse or suggesting a transom. I guess also as you said, the headers are just part of a continuous soldier course. So it's different than the rest but also the sills above probably extend, I don't know, 4 inches each side of the masonry opening. And yet the ones on the lower level just terminate right at the masonry opening. So they don't fit. So I would hope there's a little more review.
They don't match, and they don't seem to have some feeling of continuity. Doesn't mean they have to be exactly the same, but
No.
they look like they belong on a different building.
Mhm.
The one we're looking at the left is the one that had the balustrade, and the new one is the one that has the solid. Is that correct?
Yes, that is
Good.
correct.
Yeah, I think it's more compatible. Then you have to ask, if you wanted to see a lintel over the windows, would you want to see a lintel over the main door?
Yeah, I would think in the kind of reconsideration, as you're saying, Jack, the treatment of the door is part of the discussion of the treatment of those windows, the windows, the framing, dimensions, et cetera, et cetera.
There's two issues. One was to make the entrance a more inviting instead of a side door look. A lintel might help that.
How do people feel about increasing the width of the window even more so? And incorporating some kind of transom-like appearance?
Can we see the plan that the area where those windows are located?
Sure. Give me 1 second.
Thank you.
I thought it was a big open lobby and it needed a way for handicap accessibility on different levels, if I remember correctly. A ramp.
There's a ramp on, that's right, there's a ramp at that.
There's a ramp,
Mhm.
correct. So you enter through the doors, there's a small, like grade area, and then a set of stairs up, and then an ADA ramp behind those windows.
So there's the only limitation then is the height of any rails for the ramp and how they intersect with those windows. And there could be any amount of windows there, right?
Hi, can anybody hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, Ron.
Hi, it's Ron Stein. How are you?
Good.
You know, I think on the windows discussions, you know, the first I just want to address I couldn't unmute before. Sorry for delayed reaction. For the other windows that are exactly the same size, you know, I think it's important for me versus changing the size is to keep them the same size. I know optically it looks different because of the height and the pitch, but I wouldn't want to change the size of certain windows when all the windows are the same for that side. And as far as these windows in the front, you know, we changed this the first time based on the comments last meeting, and I'm not sure where I didn't think they should be matching the doors, more so the windows of the rest of the building. Again, it's windows to nowhere. We're just trying to make it appear, and we'll change them again, but we're just trying to make it appear more like part of the building. So I guess we didn't accomplish that by making them bigger this time. I thought last time they looked like they did match better. So I just want to make sure we don't keep going round for round for round. I'd like to understand but you know, I don't think they should be ornate because they're really to nowhere. So they're to a ramp. I'm just trying to I'd rather try to, if the suggestions of how to match the windows as if they were more apartments than they were entranceway, because I don't want to bring highlight into a review into a ramp. That's not the emphasis that I would like to. I would like to have emphasis on the front door, the entranceway, that way, and less, you know, I'm trying to make them look less at these windows. I just want them to appear nice from the distance, but I'd rather have it not so ornate that people are looking, oh, what's in here? And they're looking at a ramp.
I agree. And I think one of the most important things of any of our homes or businesses is an entrance that doesn't look like it's a side entrance. It has to look like it's a principal entrance, an important place to go into inside the building. And what I would rather see more, I don't care if the windows go back the way they were and they match the ones above. I would like to see an entrance that has a certain graciousness and identity in its own right, whether by color or by design or by framing or anything. And it doesn't have that now. It could easily be the side door or the back door, and I would believe it if I saw this. And I think if you wanted to put emphasis on the west side, the front side of the building, it would be to make those two doors something very gracious and something that says this is entry and it's important and it's the principal place for it.
I'm on board with that. So we'll go back and make that happen.
Are we aggravating you a lot?
No, I don't mind. I agree with you. So I'm in agreement with you on that completely. The only not aggravating part, because this is all part of the process and this is not our first building. So, but the only part for me that has always bothered me, even from the last drawing, were those windows in the front to the ramp, because they just don't serve that much of a purpose for me, other than some natural light for inside and outside. Yeah. I just want them to make it look, you know, appealing when you walk by. But again, I do not want to draw attention to it. That's all. Or spend that much money on that.
Can we see the plan again? Isn't that the main lobby?
Yeah, you go in, you take a right, and you go up a ramp.
So
but the large area is the main
This
lobby.
is a site plan.
Yeah, so where's the first floor plan?
I don't know that. I don't think Sarah put it into the If you give me a second, I can pull it up.
Okay. And I have to say, back on those windows, you've got a bunch of different sizes of windows because you got different locations on the building. So the idea that a few become a little taller, I don't think that's inconsistent with the approach you've got so far of having different windows for different areas of the building.
Okay, we'll make the change.
Great, Erin, thank you.
Okay, that helps.
So the lobby, so one comes in those double doors and possibly goes to the right to go into the ramp. I guess that's a vestibule, and you come in through there and you either go up the stairs or the ramp. And what else is open to that area? What's the area below the, it's not an elevator, what's the area? Yeah. Right below the.
That isn't, this is an elevator.
That's an elevator.
It
yeah.
is, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Sorry.
And mailboxes are in all, where's the, I mean, this is the major, and this is the entrance to the building, yeah? The primary entrance? Is there another lobby where mailboxes and all are?
Good question.
The mailboxes, it may not be in this drawing, but we updated the plan. We shifted around the top unit, so the mailboxes are right there by the stairs. So when you come in, it's that open space in front of the elevator. So you have your mailboxes, your entranceway, and then you go into the hallway towards the apartments.
I'll just, again, as per Commissioner Pinckney last week, that's even more reason as kind of the central entry to the building to, I don't consider it a space of nowhere, but just the more light in there, I think the more attractive it will be and enhance the exterior as we spoke.
We'll do it, but I just don't agree. But we'll do it. We'll make it more grandiose for those windows too. I wholeheartedly disagree with that, but I disagree with that fake storefront too. But we'll do it. We're on it. We'll match the entranceway. The changes we'll make to the entranceway to those windows as well.
I personally would rather see the windows the way you had them the first time.
You mean their size or their position or
Yeah, I
the
would.
style that they had?
Yeah, I would rather see them as inobtrusive as possible, that they would just match and blend with the, and that when your mind's eye looked at it, you'd focus on a gracious entry and not a mismatched window that looked like they were a storefront or something like that of great significance. So, you know, I'm not as, I don't feel the same way on those windows. I would rather see more emphasis on a gracious entranceway where your mind's eye would focus.
What are some elements that would help make that entryway more gracious? Would an awning above the entry be beneficial? Would stonework?
Sometimes even painting the color different can make a difference.
I think a little stonework and color would work well. We can make that. I mean, we're pretty good at that. Yeah. I mean, C2 is really good at that, and I agree. We're definitely making that change. I just need to know, and I don't mean to be, you know, any kind of argumentative at all. I just need to know which way you want to go with those other windows, because I know there's people on both sides, and we'll do whatever the committee thinks is right on that one. But I with the last gentleman, I also liked the way the windows were the first time too, and I'd rather spend money and time on that front, which we are either way, making on the front door entranceway definitely more grandiose.
Yeah, I have to agree with Jack on this one. I think the windows somehow were in the original iteration, because of the introduction of the horizontal bar, they kind of reflect the family of windows in the larger building. I guess the whole thing is trying to differentiate this entryway from the residential portion of the building and give it a bit of a character all its own. I think that the cornice treatment certainly helps do that.
I think where we got misled back a couple of weeks ago is we didn't concentrate on the floor plan, the interior floor plan. And I think there was a feeling that there'd be a huge gracious entry hall of some sort. And when we looked at the actual floor plan and realized it was only a few feet, which would get a ramp to go up and down accordingly and just do what it had to do and nothing else. And there's no gracious area or open area or a place where you'd wait for somebody to come out and greet you or what have you. When you realize how little use is going on behind those windows, then it makes those windows less inclined to be something that we should make larger. In fact, there's not much behind there, so there shouldn't be too much going on in the frame that blocks it off from the street. The floor plan really changes your thinking of what's appropriate down in there.
I think, if anything, enlarging the door to the extent that you can, because that's really the element that's going to bring light into that vestibule and that main entryway.
And I agree with that as well. And so we'll definitely come back with a nice new door entranceway, and we'll try to also, I know it's small space, we'll see if we can increase it anyway, but everything is always tight. But we also do, even in our other buildings, make, you know, we do have like a little chair in the corner, and we do have nice tile work, so we'll make it a nice entranceway. But I agree with maybe increasing the size of the door even. So we'll spend a lot of time and get something I think everybody will like very much.
And don't be afraid to change the color to something brighter.
I agree.
Are there any other observations from commissioners?
How much wider could you make the entryway given the floor plan that exists? I don't know if you want to go back to that, but I'm imagining a wide door, 2 side lights, transom that's broken by mullions. How much wider could it be and not impede the ramp? I don't know what the width of it is now. Is it 6 foot, 7 foot? I mean, I think if we help settle this with Ron in this workshop, it might be all the best. But
Sarah, do you know?
Um, just looking at the plan that Aaron had pulled up, so the vestibule enclosure itself probably couldn't get much bigger than maybe a foot more. But maybe differentiating the storefront to kind of surpass where that inner door is, so it kind of elongates on the outside, but on the inside it, it still stays the same floor plate, or floor plan, I should say, which brings in more light at that landing location in front of the ramp and the stairs as well, which carries through to the lobby of the elevator.
I kind of see that now, that there's a door and an airlock, and that space in there is maybe 8 by 8, 10 by 10.
You're probably 8 by 8 roughly, and I with the landing of what the ramp needs to be, you're probably not going to get much bigger than that. Maybe a foot at most, I would say, but maybe just talking about the windows in the front, we can kind of do a different design where the inside stays, but the windows kind of surpass the walls a little bit, and kind of play around with that.
You might get more light into that area if you extend the storefront glazing to those two interior walls of the vestibule.
Mhm.
Might get
Yeah.
some more light back in there too.
Mhm.
And then it leads to what on the exterior could you do to make the entryway more grandiose or more inviting, really, or welcoming and inviting, and serve a purpose? What would those elements be? Stonework, planter benches, big giant turtles, and cement.
Well, I think that the project has certainly come a long way and has addressed a number of concerns that were raised at the last meeting successfully, and simplifying the cornice work over at the hood over the recessed balconies. It would certainly be beneficial. And then looking at window heights, just to address some of the concerns that have been raised. But I think if all the windows are the same size or the same height, it's just the rendering makes it look like the ground floor windows are considerably shorter than the upper floors. And but the elevation view seems to indicate that they're the same size.
I think what Lee was saying in our last meetup was that element of the building seems to be so much different than the others in the way it steps out, and it's also the entryway. And it almost appears as if it would be an older storefront that we might see in our communities. And the thinner glass, the small glazing, doesn't do that justice. And if it was wider, it would be more congruent with some of our streetscapes, our existing streetscapes. But I also agree with the grandiose entry, and widen the windows in that effect would do more aesthetically not right. And if you were going to make a more grandiose opening, they should actually be smaller, and because they would just draw attention from the larger purpose of the opening, the entry. And this might sound puzzling, but the overhang of the first left of the entry, you kind of step back in that little nook of that building.
Mhm.
And maybe there's a way to enter the building also from that side, which would give you coverage overhead, snow, rain, sleet, all that kind of business. But I don't know. I'm just trying to think out of the box, off the page.
Let's see the plan again, please, Aaron.
Not sure you have enough wall to put a double
Yeah.
door in there.
It's,
We'll have the 8x8, but
Yeah,
it's
not,
into the
not quite as
apartment.
generous as it looks in the,
Yeah.
or deep as it looks in the rendering.
Regarding the front, I wonder if not having the uniform brick and continuing the, what looks like, it looks like it's a limestone front, should that have gone all the way across the front on the first floor? I mean, it's there certainly around the corner and it looks great on both corners of the building. And I think the addition of the water course really broke it up nicely. But I wonder if it's the right thing to do to have the 3 windows and the doorway the exact same color of masonry as it is for the second and third floor. Should it have been considered to be different and to look like faux stone or whatever? If you drew it, how would it look if it were a different color?
Is it okay if I go back to the elevations?
Sure.
Yeah,
Jack, I didn't completely understand what you were expressing.
If the most important, I love this building. I think this is a great plan, and I think some of the things we've done are I think, significant. But we all seem to be uncomfortable with the central piece of the west side, which is the main entrance. We've thought about trying to make the windows bigger to make us think of days when we had storefronts. We've thought of trying to make the double doors stand out more with different things. And I wonder if what we haven't thought is, are we sure we want that color? Are we sure we want that brick to be the same brick essentially as what's on the second and third floor on this west side? Would we be less uncomfortable with the fact that it keeps looking like a side entrance rather than a front entrance? And it keeps looking like a necessary entrance, but not a gracious entrance. And I wonder if we keep sticking to that color and then trying to make it significant by changing the design of windows and doors, maybe the real problem is that using the same brick. I like the soldiers row course that's both above the windows and below, and whether they're there or not, or whether they're full or not, it's nice. But I wonder if that color is what's throwing us off, that we keep thinking of it as a back door or a side door rather than a significant entrance.
I
And
think
I
that's
wonder-
right, Jack. I think you hit it. I think
I-
that's
Yeah,
the
I wonder if it showed out looking gray, would we say, oh yeah, that's the front?
Don't know. But I think you're right, that it's treated as a secondary, non-important entrance. And much of what we said, the size of the windows, the placement of the windows, the size of the door is all really about what you said is it doesn't speak to being the primary entrance to the building, and that's what we'd like.
So I was just texting with Sarah, and we're open to changing the color and texture and stone away from the brick. I had actually mentioned that in way early in planning. So I agree. Maybe that would make the whole front there look more prestigious, better, and more of a vocal point of an entrance. And then when we do those changes to the front door, that will really make that stand out as well.
Jack, I think you summed it up very well because you did clarify it for me, and you're right. And it is a different element, but it needs to be more pronounced for the entryway.
So let us go back and do that. If that's okay with everybody, we can go make that rendering happen. We're getting there. I mean, I appreciate everybody's feedback on the changes we did make, and I'm glad that they are working. And then let's get this last piece fixed.
Right.
Yeah, it's the piece of the building that's searching for a design. And, I think that, Jack makes a good point that just bringing the brick from the housing block above down to the street doesn't quite do it. So, whether that is a stone treatment or some other thing that celebrates that as the entrance to the building.
We want to be careful with our water course on that one. We may want to just forget the water course on the central one, because that will create a horizontal element that we won't want for the entire building.
No, I agree. I wouldn't suggest wrapping that around. I think it's more, it is a different element, but treating it as a, clad in a different manner, may make all the difference. I guess with all that said, do you have enough information or, to go forth and multiply with this? And
I think Sarah and I and the Sarah representing C2 and myself, we're good. We have enough feedback now. We're good to make that. I think we know what everybody here on the phone are looking for, and make a good stab at it.
Yeah, and if you have some ideas that you want to float and send some quick sketches to Aaron to circulate, we can do that.
Yeah, that's what we'll do. That's a great idea, and that would help us and to narrow it down so that we can go through this in more iterative before the next meeting. All right.
And Ron and Sarah, you can do that. This project still has, so everyone is aware, this project still has to go through planning board review. So once planning board has taken action on the project, HRC can then take action. So, if we can either circulate revisions or depending on when planning board takes action, we can always bring this back for concept or just bring it back for final review at a public hearing. So there's some time.
Just for us, it's planning between planning a delay, an unforeseen delay in planning from a procedural thing. We're just right now we're already behind the 8 ball we had to delay the project already. So we're ready to start it as soon as we can. So I know we have to get planning in July, and then get the vote there, and then as soon as we can get approval from HRC, we'll start the building.
No, it's an exciting process.
So whatever process, Aaron, that you think would be best to make that as more efficient and time saving, we'll do whatever that takes. Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Well,
Ronnie.
thank you. No, it's an exciting prospect.
It is.
Certainly to have a substantial building at that corner to rebuild the corner would be a great benefit to Pearl Street.
Yes, it's been a long time coming as well.
It
So
has. How long have we been studying this corner?
since 2016,
Oh, that's not long.
no.
It's 2.5 pandemics.
That's right.
I drove by it today, and that's not as large as I thought it would be. It's not, it's a corner, but.
All right.
That was the only item on our planned agenda. You did note an archaeology update, but since Jan is not with us,
Jen is not here, so I don't think, I don't have anything in terms of archaeology. But I do have one item under the new general discussion topic, so.
I did notice, I happened to look at the planning board agenda that came forward, and there's I think out at 1415 Washington Avenue, where I think they're going to demolish one of the extended stay buildings out there and replace it with student housing. And that
Yes.
is adjacent to that railroad embankment.
Right. It won't come to HRC for review. I know that we discussed this a while back. I think I brought it up for archaeology purposes. It's adjacent to the railroad embankment, but it does not, there's no development on the railroad embankment parcel. And I believe that they have done a phase 1A, or they're undertaking a phase 1A for the property. But they will be, they'll also be doing some, I think, retention walls along the new development site for the student housing, so that, you know, the embankment area is stable and it's not disturbed by anything. So, but it does not have to come to the HRC for review.
Now, I know when these things happened many, many years ago, and all these extended stay projects were being built, that it did come to the HRC, but it was because of the historic resource of the embankment. And I believe we made comments at least on not preserving the embankment, because that was handled somewhat differently. But
Right.
the whole idea of, you know, how do you identify it, make it a destination or something that could at least be interpreted appropriately. And
I think there is a
pursuing that in the planning of this residential development.
And I think there may be, and I'll go back and I'll look and I'll speak with my colleague, Zach Powell, as well, because I believe that there is some discussion, or there's been some requirements from the planning board, I believe, or it may have been the BZA, I can't remember now, for interpretation signage, I believe. So there may be some new installation for the embankment at the site,
Okay.
which would be nice because
It kind of looks like an overgrown hill.
right.
Having a better notion of what it is and the importance that it really holds.
Correct. Yeah. No, I don't believe many people know that it's out there or what it even is. So, yeah.
That's what we have Melrose Avenue for, and that's why we have Holland Avenue and Morton Avenue. They're all the railroad. That's why they're on a crazy angle that doesn't match anything else, either ours or the state's.
What's the status of the, I just saw something written on it. I guess I read it. What's the status on the tutors from the city standpoint?
I haven't heard anything recently. I know that, I believe for a while, BRC, the Department of Building and Regulatory Compliance, had been going through and doing checks on the properties. They're still privately owned. And I know for a while the PCOT was, they're holding the properties for other developments. And I know that at one point, I believe they were offering that if anybody wanted to relocate the buildings, they could pay for the relocation of the structures, but they're owned by PCOT, and I don't believe that they have plans to rehab the properties.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's three major resources in my mind that are the city is whose loss will be very sad, and it's kind of under our watch. And certainly one is the tutors, as complicated as that is. The second is the warehouse. And the third, in my mind anyway, is over at Everett Road, the meat packing, the complex.
Mm-hmm.
And in more vibrant places, all of those would have the opportunity to be creatively reused and valued.
Mm-hmm.
And here they're just these festering failures.
Yeah. If you have seen the article in the Albany Business Review, there were proposals.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
For the central warehouse, but it's now on hold. The owner, Evan Bloom, who's out of New York, downstate, I believe out of New York City, is now has filed bankruptcy. So it has put any proposals or reviewing of the bids for those proposals on hold.
90 days.
I believe, yes, yeah.
For 90 days, and you have to make a good case.
But there's over $500,000 worth of back taxes on that property. So
I like this comment. This is not a traditional bankruptcy. I'm
Right.
not sure what that means.
yeah.
I mean, wow, even, if we were in Buffalo, we would have like silos being reused and turned into venues. And anyway, I'm just whining, but they're all discouraging situations.
Yeah.
I would also add to your list, Maryland, would be Kenmore.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Yeah.
So.
Of course.
Are you talking Kenwood or Kenwood?
Or Kenwood, I'm sorry. Yes, Kenwood.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's something that goes back to Patrick Chow and the church, and how do you make the amount of units work? I know it's off subject, but we're talking, it's a workshop. Patrick really has to get outside, use elements from that building, get outside that building, and then get back inside that building, rather than just trying to build within the four walls of that building.
Yeah.
And you were talking about that site plan, and to know if that's even available. Yeah, how do you do something creative with that church?
Yeah. Aaron and John and I spent maybe an hour yesterday on the phone with Sam Wells and Rick LaJoy. It was supposed to be a start of a working discussion about about our responsibilities under the emergency demo. And it turned into an expanded conversation. And you'll all see what we're preparing, but we're all doing kind of our little pieces, and we'll pull it together, I think, for the August workshop. But maybe it is those major resources and anyone else's on the list that you want to bring forward that we want to identify, because vacant buildings get demolished through emergency. And so to some degree, if it's not too much of a stretch, it's our opportunity to communicate to the Common Council our recommendations to minimize that whole process. I don't know, I'll kind of scribble some stuff up and John and Aaron will decide if it fits there or not, but we haven't spoken about that. And
No, but in the
Has-
recommendations section, I think you bring up a good point. It's kind of like the 10 to save sort of things. that,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
just put it on everybody's radar.
yeah, it's an opportunity, I think, to,
These
do
are
that.
valuable resources that will be lost if we don't emphasize how valuable they are.
all right, well, I'll poke at those, we'll see if we think it fits. But any other resources that anyone would like to add to that list as some of the examples of the more important resources that we don't want to lose? And what are the efforts from property maintenance and code and legal processes? Have they really all been fully explored as would merit those important buildings? I bet not. I mean, I don't know, I'm making that up, but I suspect there's more to be done.
Mhm. And you all have the ability to put forth, recommendations for local designation as well. So there is that process for it as well.
So one problem with putting forth local designations is it kind of falls to you to do all of that research work, right?
Or hiring somebody.
Yeah.
Or hiring.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's what we want to be thinking about, is that list and what it might take to prepare but we don't have funds. When would we have funds for that?
We could always apply for CLG funding.
At any time?
Or not at any time, or national trust funding. There might be some options for grant funds.
Can you scope that out a bit, Aaron, and just to start to get a feel for that? That's great.
Yeah, I mean, it is, it's one of the recommendations from the historic preservation plan, and
That's
it
right.
is something that we should be undertaking as a certified local government.
Great.
That we do either local surveys, or we also do local designation. So we haven't,
No.
I think one of the meetings we had discussed, one of probably the last locally designated areas, I think, was the Upper Madison Avenue Historic District. I think that was the early 2000s.
20 years ago? We haven't done anything in 20 years.
Possibly, I think.
John,
and
you were there.
And I know when I think since I've started, pretty much anything that has come through for designation has been on the state national register. So
Shame.
Yeah.
Well, if John was there, then Norman was there. How's Norman? Has anyone spoken with him?
I spoke with him 2 weeks ago. He's doing okay. He said, he hadn't been well over the winter. But he's doing all right. He can't do long meetings, so he hasn't been coming to the meetings.
You
So.
can't do Zoom.
No.
It is.
Yeah.
It's psychologically, it's driving us all nuts. The sooner we get this to a meeting, you'll have Norman at a real meeting.
Yes. And speaking of which, we have, we're now at 70% vaccination rate statewide. So, we are back to normal, going back to normal, and we do have the option of going back to in-person meetings. Or I guess we can discuss it here, or we can wait till we have more members at the meetings. But we do have the option to go back to in-person meetings, or we can continue, or we can do a hybrid.
Hybrid's good. If somebody actually likes it or thinks it's necessary, they could still have Zoom. Nobody is shutting them out from Zoom. What we are shutting out is people who really need to have a real meeting face to face.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Back to City Hall.
Trouble with City Hall, you can't hear when people talk in the same room.
Yeah. And it's the security at City Hall now that we no longer have APD doing the securities because of the court system. So the security of getting into the building is a little bit
That
A little
may
bit more-
change. We're
little
at
bit more stringent.
70%.
Sorry?
We're at 70% now. There may be new changes. I have to split because I have to meet some people that began a while ago. And I apologize.
It's
Good
okay.
night, Jack.
We're done.
Night.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and make it official so
Oh.
Jack can.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Thanks, you too.
All right.